And we are live. We're gonna let everyone trickle in for a second. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Our February pick was Persuasion by the lovely Jane Austen.
Never heard of her.
No, I made my dad watch Pride and Prejudice Zombies, and he was like, yo, are you okay? And I was like, listen, you want the violence and the romance? That's for you.
I kind of want to watch it. It looks
It's
hilarious.
funny. It's funny. The 2005 Mr. Collins in that one, he like the competition between that Mr. Collins and Zombies is pretty good. We're just gonna let everyone trickle in. I guess I'll really wait. What are some initial thoughts before going into Jane Austen's Persuasion?
I had not read Persuasion before, which is very exciting. I've only read Emma and Pride and Prejudice. Those are the two. And so I was like, great, a third. Like, I had no doubt I would enjoy it. Like, Jane Austen's great. I have no Jane Austen hot take for anybody. So I was just kind of looking forward to reading it.
How about you, Ace?
For me, okay, can you guys hear me fine? Okay, so for me, this is like the first actual Jane Austen book I read because I could not get with the Pride and Prejudice hype. Like, it was just too much, and I expected it to be a really hard read for me just because I'm not used to this type of literature. So it was really interesting, and I'm happy I powered through it. So yeah, I had no expectations besides that.
Do either of you think you'll read another Jane Austen novel or another classic work of Jane Austen?
I feel like it'll be inevitable that I read them all. Like, I don't think it'll be like in the next 2 years or like a project anytime soon. But like, I have enough friends that have not read her books that would be like, hey, Matthew, do you want to read this with me? And I'll be like, yeah. Like, I feel like it's going to be, I feel like I'll have Jane Austen casually inserted into my life. It's not going to be like a ceremonious thing.
Gotcha. How about you, Ace?
I want to just because it is so fulfilling and satisfying finishing it. Not even for like the plot, but the fact that I was able to finish a literary novel makes me so proud of myself. So I was like, I'm gonna chase this feeling. I'm gonna keep going.
I'm the same. I impulse bought all of the cute Barnes Noble editions.
I do love those editions. They are very
pretty. They're pretty. Okay, Northanger Abbey. Yes.
Yeah.
And then for all my pals out there that love audiobooks and think that some classic audiobooks are hard to get into, this Audible original one, hold on, slapped. Florence Pugh did that with this one. I loved it. So let's do some initial like quandaries, thoughts, questions, comments, concerns of like our first initial jump into Jane Austen's Persuasion. Like, what were our like, oh, this is the tone. What were our first like not jarring thoughts, but initial thoughts getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Jane Austen has such a poise to her writing that like it's not inaccessible, but you really do have to get into her headspace of like very much looking down upon her characters. There's this very like fun, whimsical approach where like I don't think it's like even like harshly judging, although sometimes that does creep in. But like you really are like watching a little dollhouse with the figures inside moving around. And I feel like that's very much how I feel, at least whenever I read her stories. So I think like tonally, it's always really kind of fun to go back into that world because that is very much what I associate as like a classic tone. There's something that's just like magically storytelling about it.
That's right. Is?
Okay, so at first, like going into it, like I said, I've never actually read a classic like this, so to me it felt a little bit like rambling sometimes. Like I felt like for like 2 pages or 3 pages we would talk about one character, and then after like getting used to it, like I kind of like what Matthew said, it felt more like looking down at like a dollhouse and just watching these characters and how the way Jane Austen just kind of judges them at times. It does feel like that, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the messiness. So
I funny that you mentioned that because when I was reading Pride and Prejudice, I read the introduction, believe it or not, and it goes into her life, how there's like an analysis of how her characters and their I don't want to say poverty level, but their status in society kind of reflects on like how she lived in life. And I feel like it's also a commentary on how she viewed people who look down on her family and their social status. And I like that step back and that analogy that you both mentioned of the dollhouse looking up. It's like, ooh, let's see what's gonna happen next, and we have somewhat, control of like progressing to the next line of the story. And the rambling, I got lost too. I was like, girl, first one, Anna. Remember about her cousin for the next 2 weeks. I don't care about Anna. Let's go back to the cousin. It's jarring a wee bit. What are our first impressions of the characters? I know, not specifics, but like, was there one character that stood out? You're just like, you're funny. I like you.
I stand Mary. I am such a Mary fan. I love everything about her. She's awful, and I love her. I think she's so funny. I would be her. Like, not to get too into spoileries, but like, were I to get married first as the youngest, outside of my whole family, as they degrade in wealth, I would be the exact same way. I would be spoiled and miserable and just constantly feeling ailments that don't exist. Like, I loved her so much. You can see how excited I am.
She was a character, and Matthew, as a Leo, I think that fits the bill.
We like attention.
How about you, Ace? You're just like,
Well, for me, like, first impression of all the characters, like, I was getting really lost, especially because the cousin and the dad, like, is it Anna or Anne? I forgot. Okay. Anne. Anne's dad and the cousin both have the same names, right?
Yes. One was eventually referred to as Elliot, and one was referred to as Walter more frequently, but at the beginning they did not differentiate, and it was confusing.
So I was really confused because I'm like, why is the dad trying to get at her daughters? So I guess that part really stood out to me. But other than that, I got really confused with the characters a lot because we would go in depth with a lot of characters sometimes. So no one really stood out to me that much, except for, I guess, the Musgrove sisters, just because they kind of reminded me of the stepsisters from Cinderella. So yeah.
Very much that.
I'm with Matthew. Like, the Mary, like, her character was just funny. And then her stepmom's like, or her mother-in-law's like, Mary doesn't play with the children. She always has something going on. I don't like that. And then Mary's like, my mother-in-law gets them candy and sweets, and they are bouncing balls to the walls, can't calm down. I'm like, listen, pick a side.
No, Team Mary all the way.
I
think like the presentation of the family is very interesting. We're literally presented with the baronetage. We're literally presented with a family tree to open the book. And I think that that's interesting because this is a book about vanity and status. Those are like the two things that like really drive everything in the text. And I think we do get these like kind of long and winding descriptions of characters who might be irrelevant to the plot overall, because we have to see as readers what they stand to lose for the sake of their pride. Like, I think that's kind of part of what she's doing here. Like, we get more with the Elliot family, so Walter Elliot, and going through everything, because they're our central focus. But like, I do think we get that with the other characters because we have to know like the level of status in competition with one another.
All right, I'm recommending to a wee bit spoilers now. So if you have not read the book, I recommend you catch us later, and we'll see you in the spoiler section if you come back. So let's get to it. Let's go with what are like our aching thoughts we got to discuss now, because listen.
I think my favorite part of this book, we'll start there, was the way that Jane Austen really let Anne just kind of like slide gently into the spotlight. She wasn't a main character, and then she like kind of suddenly was, and you're like, oh, Anne's here, which is very clever given the way that her character is described, in very, very rude and harsh ways by the other characters and even by Jane Austen herself. So then for Anne to just kind of like suddenly be the one, it was quite lovely. And she would fade in and out of scenes that I thought was just so exciting to read. Like, I don't know, it just like my little brain was like, this is so cute. Like, this is so clever. I think this is an author who's really like wielding a character very well because she is so unassuming, and that form matched who she was in a way that I thought was really good.
Yeah,
Her
I agree with Matthew.
go ahead.
What was it? Oh, okay. I was gonna say I just agree with Matthew because like there were a few times where I was like, oh, it doesn't feel like she's a main character, but I feel like that highlighted who she is as a character because when we do come to her, she's really like focused on what she knows and what she wants, which is like a big change to how she's described back then, where she's obviously the theme of the book is persuasion, so like how she's easily persuaded. So to me, like that was some really good writing, I guess. Like
Well,
the storyline with her and Wentworth, like I'm happy that we didn't get it like right away because I like how they really built upon their
Mhm.
relationship like throughout the story instead of like starting it off right away with them trying to get back together.
yeah, I think Anne doesn't really appear. I mean, Anne is talked about, but she doesn't really like have a voice until the
Yeah.
Crofts are mentioned moving into the town. And I read this book today, so I distinctly remember in chapter 3, whenever they're talking about the Crofts, she's like, "Oh, I know all about the Crofts," and like she lists all this information about the Croft family. And I was like, Anne, what are you doing here? You know, it was kind of like a really enticing moment. And then at the end of that chapter, she's just like, I hope to see him again, or whatever, you know, the language
Yeah.
of that was. But then immediately in chapter 4, she's like, we met, we were in love, we were talked out of a marriage. Like there was no mystery or suspense in that part of the narrative, which I thought was very funny. But like A said, we got to see then that be like reformed and revived. So I was very worried that we were going to be presented with it so early on, given how forthright she was with her own backstory. But instead, it was like these very subtle, chapter by chapter, like tiny 3-word exchanges. Of course, Jane Austen every time is like, and it was the most painful thing you've ever
Oh
heard in
yes.
your entire life. And I'm like, yes, it was.
No, mentally. So the cast for the movie coming out on Netflix for Persuasion, I just kept picturing, Dakota and Henry, like all of them as the cast. So I was just like, the tension, the eyes, everything. I like how Anne is just like pushes like caregiver, or she's impoverished, like all these things, and she pushes the background, and then she's just like, we had such a bad beginning, but let's ache through this tension, and let's see what goes there. And again, Mary, I'm looking at her like, you gonna call Mary out on her bullshit? Is that what really gonna let her do? And she's like, no, she's has to progress to that main character's front stage part before we can even like have those interactions with those main characters to begin with.
Because Mary did everything right. Like, sorry, Mary, hashtag Mary did no wrong. Like, she got married. That, I mean, at the time, that was her job. That's what she did. It's a shame that Elizabeth didn't do it first as the oldest, but like, sorry. Wake up,
That's
Elizabeth.
true. That's
Hi,
true.
old. You're 29. Like, what's going on?
Speaking of Elizabeth, right? I didn't understand so Anne talked to Elizabeth about her dad potentially marrying somebody else, and Elizabeth felt affronted. Is that what I remember correctly?
I think there was this kind of power dynamic where like Elizabeth replaced her mother's role and kind of poorly, from what I understand. Like,
Okay.
Walter Elliot went from like having a well-managed household to having a daughter who was described as very like him helping run his household, and I think that was the problem. I think
Gotcha.
it's like a
Gotcha.
power thing because she doesn't have status if he is married, but currently she does because she's like the eldest of 3.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure of the politics of it all, but I think that's what it
Okay.
was.
Because I was just like, girl, what? Like, I get you're scared of the new woman in your house, but her reasoning, I was like, it's not.
Well, Elizabeth also hates women. Like, that's very clear. Like,
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Now we've gotten to know the characters a little bit, or the side characters. Do we remember the side characters? Who was the one that fell and almost died?
Louisa. I do know
Lisa.
Louisa.
That was funny. That was
Because
funny.
that
Okay,
was
Luisa's so
dramatic.
funny for that. That was so funny.
Just some clownery shit. Yes.
She was literally like, I'm gonna jump again. Everyone was like, no. And then she was basically dead. Like, she was like, she went from jumping to unconscious. Like, what fall causes you to be suddenly unconscious like that isn't a death?
That is the most pick me like energy ever. Oh my god. Like dead ass. I was like, What, girl? What are you doing? You're
It
literally
makes it
throwing
entertainment.
yourself.
It makes it entertainment at the same time. Bestie, if I embarrass myself in front of a man that I want to marry, we're never talking again. I will never look them in the face ever again. And you almost B-worded. No.
This is
How old is
embarrassing.
how old was Louisa?
I think
Let me
they're
Google real quick.
19, right?
19?
That was probably my biggest struggle reading this book, was not realizing what people's ages were unless they were explicitly stated. Like, I know Elizabeth is 29. I know Anne is 27 because they say that. But like, other than that, I have no idea.
No, yeah.
I don't know if it was because I remember the mention of age. I don't know if it was Mary, because they were talking about getting married. So I think Mary got married at 19, right? And I think they were talking about the sisters getting married soon because they're 19. I don't know. I'm lost with the age too.
That was
Especially since, like,
interesting.
Oh, Anne also had her engagement at 19. So much. I don't know. I'm getting confused.
But like,
yeah.
Louisa, like, the one thing I do find more funny about Louisa following, and like anytime ailments or injuries were mentioned in this book, Jane Austen like very much amped up the word hope, and it was repeated several times, basically like reassuring her audience that everything was going to be okay, that like despite all this, there was still hope. Despite everything, you know, she had characters speak it, she spoke it in narration, and I wasn't sure whether or not that was like an of the time thing where she wanted readers to feel comfort, or if it were like a reflection on the way that the family felt about occurrences like this, that like nothing bad could ever happen to them. I'm inclined to like buy into both. Like if somebody convinced me one way or the other, I'd be like, yeah, cool, that sounds great. But like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Okay. As Anne and Wentworth are thrown together more and more, how do we feel about the fact that they never address their shared history?
I don't. Do they need to?
Me, I'm just like over communication, and it doesn't happen until like the end of it. So I'm just like, oh, we gotta go through
Well, like,
100 pages.
and like, words were the thing that like tore them apart in the first place. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Anne was convinced to break up with him, and it said in that explanation that he knew that it was made up. Like he knew that the reason was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they like I think they both knew that they didn't want that to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like they
Yeah.
need it. Like they don't have a rift in that same way. It's like a social rift more than it is a romantic one, because I think they were both aware of what was actually happening when Anne called it off.
Right. Fair. I'm just like, no, give me the drama. Let's fight about it some more. Let's go in circles.
Oh,
No,
the
because I just
scene where she's like playing the piano and then she like leaves for a second and then he sits in her seat and then she comes back and he's like, "Oh, sorry, this was your seat." And then it's just like, of course she mustn't. It was the most devastating thing that has ever happened to her.
But also, like, sir, if you're not playing the piano, dip. Like, why'd you take my seat? Just to talk to me? To talk to me?
I love that.
And granted, so the night before, I was forced to watch Malcolm and Marie. So I was just like, I need the fluff. I need the romance. I need something. Because that was disrespectful and anti-Black. It was so
Really?
bad.
I've never watched that movie.
You don't have to. You do not have to.
I won't. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, so the commentary around people throughout this book is something that I feel like is very 2000s. Like if you look at like old comedy programs, you will see like you know, fat jokes and like just jokes in general are not gonna age well. And in this book, I'm just like, we really talking about like if they're well mannered and if they're not round but square. What did we feel about this commentary going on through this book?
Well, there's that one scene where the Admiral Croft is like going off about women on ships.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife's kind of like nudging, like kind of like, I don't know, making fun of him because the belief of not having women on ships is associated as like a very proper thing to believe.
Right. Yeah.
And it's synonymous with a very sexist thing to believe. And that's what the characters are pointing out. They're like, we're not that proper. Like, we don't do what, who do you think you are to think this?
Right.
And I think that conversation was really interesting, just like in the social dynamic of what they were actually able to achieve with it.
Right.
I think Jane Austen's like very clever in the way that she goes about talking about things like that, like status, like what it means to be a woman versus man. And that was a really like winsome example to me.
Ace?
Okay, so for me, the first thing where I noticed that she does that a lot, where she kind of comments a lot on people's appearance and like gender, was when they first introduced Anne, which it was basically in like the first few pages, and they kept talking so much about how she was prettier back then. Like that that made me, I don't know how to feel about it. Like it was kind of uncomfortable because there was so much like, I guess, negative comments on the appearances of women, like even Mrs. Clay. Like I get it, Mrs. Clay was just, I don't even know if I could say like her role is that vital because she was also just kind of there for, what is his name? Walter.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know how to feel about it, but it does make me somewhat uncomfortable that like some of the commentary talks mostly negative about their appearances, and then there's this weird part where suddenly they're commenting about how she looks better, like Anne. And
Yeah.
The Anne description's very much flip-flopped. Like I think
yeah, like
they talk
I
about
don't
how
know how
as
to.
she aged, they described her as haggard. Like I distinctly remember that word, and I thought that was so mean and so funny at the same time. But I'm just like, how do we go? Like she's 27. How haggard should like she can't be that bad. Like I don't know what that looks like,
Yeah,
but I think it's because a lot of like their value as people is very much tied to their ability to get married to someone. And if they are not visually appealing, they might not be able to find a husband. So I think that's part of it.
dang,
But
No,
it's
because
like not good. Like
it's not good. It's not good whatsoever. I
it's
was
not
like,
good.
dang, like y'all got balls saying this. Like, say it to my face if you really gonna say it.
There would be
And
like a page and a half of just them talking about how this person looks terrible, and I'm like, this a page
well,
and
I
a
think it's
half
like
of.
Elizabeth was like probably the worst like doing it. Like she like
Yeah, she
and I think it's
was.
because she's resentful. She never got married. Like she okay, so like the word that they kept using in the narrative was expecting. She was expected, this man was expected to come to their home. This man was expected to marry her. And when he didn't, they realized that maybe they're not all that shit. So like now she's 29, matron of the house, like, and I think that she's resentful of that, which is compelling but also aggravating.
I just
agreed.
think it's hilarious that she really wanted to get married, that she tried so hard to get with her cousin.
I don't think she tried that hard though. Like I think that was the point. Is like she just kind of waited and like thought it assumed it would happen, and like Sir Walter Elliot assumed it would happen, and then it didn't, and they were all like, "Wait, what the fuck?" Like I think they were like, "Excuse me," and that's
They
why.
really wanted that to happen though.
Yeah,
What do we think of the commentaries surrounding like Elliot's presence in the book? Because that middle part, do not ask me who was there. Do not ask me the side character. No, no. Mm-mm. Like Blake, so we have a group chat, and Blake has like little like descriptors, and I was like, I should have used that when I entered the book because I was like, who is this? Why are you here? I can't recall
there
your
were a lot of
importance.
characters
What?
for
There was a
sure.
lot of characters.
And it was overwhelming at one point because I'm just like, you're just here for Anne to be a background character, and you have more shine than she does, which is fine because like we get to that one point, and Anne's being HBIC, it's fine. But at one point, I'm just like, yo, there's too many crowded people in the chat. I need to do a reorganization. We
I think
love
it's like
Jesus.
it's like I mean, I don't know. Like I read this book in one day. I rushed. That is not like I don't know. I'm kind of mad at myself because I feel like had I spent more time with it, I would have enjoyed it more, like a lot more. And I would have enjoyed learning about these side characters and like learning about their statuses and how their status is volleyed against one another. Like I feel like that's part of the intrigue of the book is like learning how these people are going to interact based on how valuable they see themselves. Like the book is called Persuasion. I don't think it's a book about persuasion. Like there's a lot of persuading that happens, but like
Right.
persuasion is more like a motif. Like it's the thing that occurs to further the plot and that you draw your eye toward, but the tool that the characters use to persuade is always vanity. It's always like, well, you don't want to be seen doing this, or you don't want to be with him because he doesn't have money. Like, that's vanity seems to be far more at the forefront of driving this text than persuading or persuasion seems to be for me.
I'm trying to think if I have the same definition of persuasion as you do, because I feel like the mention of persuasion and how like she's easily talked out of marrying him, that's being persuaded.
Yeah.
No?
But what was the appeal? So she was easily talked out of marrying him because it wouldn't be a good look on her status,
Yeah.
on her family. Like, so like the persuading did happen, but I wouldn't call this like a book about persuasion.
Gotcha.
Although when that word did
Yeah.
appear in the text, I was excited.
No, yeah. Yeah. I was glad that I immediately understood the title of the book right off the bat. I was like, oh, okay. I have brain cells.
I think that's
Plus
the
things
only
like-
thing I was
Go ahead.
able to comprehend in this book, like persuasion.
It's like, I mean, you think about like Pride and Prejudice, you have a character that's pride and you have a character that's prejudice. Like, it's very on the nose. Whereas this, I don't think that we have a character that's persuasion. Like, I don't think that exists in the same obvious way. I don't think that it's the driving force in the way that like people need to get over. They don't need to get over their persuasive abilities. They need to get over the fact that they're so full of themselves.
I mean, if you think about it, it could also kind of be the driving force, because Lady Russell was the one who persuaded Anne to not get married with Wentworth, and then she's also the one who persuaded them to put Kellynch Hall up for rental, I guess. Is it
Lady
rental?
Russell, main character.
Yeah, she basically pretty much moved the story forward, and is the reason why Anne ends up being with Wentworth again, because her brother, or no, his sister ends up moving into Kellynch Hall.
I have a third layer to this onion. I feel like persuasion is a character in the same way how like Sex in the City, like New York is a character, right? I feel like the appearance of persuasion being there is kind of like the character in the book.
I feel the same, but about vanity. Like, I think vanity is the character. Maybe the baronetage. The baronetage is a big character in this book.
Okay, listen, that word would appear, and I'm like, okay, next. Don't know what it is.
The big book family lineage.
Oh,
the literal book.
Gotcha. So I was like, no thoughts, head empty. We're gonna leave it there.
It was the book that like showed them how important they were and gave them that pompous attitude.
No, yeah. Speaking of which, Anne goes to meet one of her old teachers, someone who's like in a little like in-between house, and I think that moment for Anne might have been like, oh shit, if I don't marry someone and if I don't like have my name's status to fall back on, I might end up here. And I don't know if she has this like prideful, like uppity mindset going to visit her. Ace is in public, it's fine, guys. I don't know if it's just like an uppity status that she has going to visit her. She's like, oh, I'm gonna bestow my presence on her. But like I think she's just like a humbled person, no?
No, yeah, I think like the lovely thing about the Jane Austen novels that I have read is there's always a middle ground. Like, I don't think Jane Austen is like slough off status that means nothing. You shouldn't value yourself. Like, I think this was a moment of like, oh, societally this is important and I do need to care about it because caring about it is caring about me in the world in which we live. So I do think that was kind of like, it was a humbling moment in that like Anne was very much not the main character and she chose to be in that moment, as the kids say.
As the kids say. I was just talking about how the societal structure with Anne, she goes to meet someone else who is less fortunate than she is. And it's like, she doesn't feel like an uppity person about it. She's just there because she knows that she could end up here one day because that slippery slope of status and instability in this period, especially with, my thing is, she was the middle or the youngest knowing her dad's financial situation.
Anne was the middle child.
She was the middle child.
Yeah, Mary was the youngest, which is why it was such a like scandal that she got married first.
Interesting.
This is why we stan Mary. I'm also the youngest, and that's what I want.
Aren't you a gunkle?
I am. No, my eldest brother's a priest. My middle brother is happily married. I'm the youngest. I am single. Hello. I aspire to marry.
I'll leave Matthew's card on reasons to date him in the comments down below.
I'm not a catch.
We'll make a
trust
Google
me.
Doc.
We'll do a Google Doc.
Like,
We'll do a Google Doc.
Matthew, sign up for a date with Matthew. There you go.
It'll be one of our giveaways we do for them.
No, I don't like this plan.
Persuasion. We're persuading you.
Every live show is a little bit chaotic, and that's why I love it here. All right, next question.
Let's just move on.
Anne's arrival in Bath, considering the presence of Mr. Elliot, Anne's reaction to her family, the way that she begins to distance herself from them and stand up for herself, as she becomes more BDE, HBIC, like main character energy. What did we think of this transitional period of being in Bath? Do we think, like, yes, distance helps us, recognize toxic family structures, I'm going to call it, but also it helps us, like, what's the word? Like, what's that word? Defend yourself and advocate for yourself and to, like, grow into your own person. Like, what did we think of this transitional period of Anne being in Bath?
Well, I don't think her family was, like, particularly, like, thrilled to see her. Like, it's just, I think it became very clear how little Elizabeth and her father care for her. Or, like, believe in her, or, whatever the verbiage is, right? Like, I don't know. I think it was kind of a moment where she had to choose to be a part of the family that she had not really wanted to be, because she's everywhere else in the book while everyone else is everywhere else, I think it was a moment for her to be like, to like actually make a decision that also impacted them as well as herself. So I think it was a big deal. But, like, her family's not happy for her. I mean, like, I don't know, they received her warmly, but, like, not like, it wasn't a prodigal son moment,
Compared to Walter's. Okay, so I remember correctly. Who was spewing shit about his family and took it personally? That was Walter, no? Or was that Elliot?
Elliot was causing problems for Sir Walter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, not you talking smack and getting caught. You gonna talk smack, don't get caught.
And caught him.
No, yeah. Like, think before you speak. What are our initial reactions to... Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah, that's a question. What are our initial reactions to Persuasion as a whole? Did you connect with Anne as a heroine and Wentworth as a hero?
I personally felt very connected to her character because I don't usually put myself first, and I do like to take advice from the people around me because sometimes I feel like they know better than me, especially when they're a lot older.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no. I'll talk in the meantime.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Hello.
We can't hear.
Now.
Your AirPods die?
Oh, no. This is very dramatic.
Oh, no.
A horror film. Okay,
Stop.
I will... Should I just... Oh. How polite... Like...
10 seconds? I don't know.
Okay, I'll just go. I don't think I related to
Hello?
Anne. Hello?
He's back.
I can't hear anything. This is so scuffed.
Did your AirPods die?
Hello?
It's a live show.
Can y'all hear me? Can you give a thumbs up? Okay, I can't hear you guys right now. I'll fix that in a bit. But continuing on to what I was saying, I feel like Anne's character was very easy to connect to, and her development was very much, to me, realistic because, like you said, time away from your family does really help, even if you're just with your sibling or something. Like, being away from the main people who gave you advice is really, like, it just clears your head more, it just clears yourself more. So I thought it was really good for her, especially, I didn't get to answer that question, but her transition to Bath and starting to do things for herself. Like, even meeting up with her friend, like, I know she hasn't, I think she mentioned something about her not doing that in a while, and then deciding to do it for herself and for her friend. I thought that was like a really nice step. And then her deciding not to go meet up with her friend to try and go to see Wentworth was like really showing more of her character development. So I'm done now. I'm gonna try to fix my audio.
You're good.
I very much did not relate to Anne in any way. I very much relate to Emma. Like, that's my problem. But I found Anne probably to be my favorite Austen protagonist to read.
Okay.
I really enjoyed like following her journey. I loved her subtlety. I loved the way that she was constructed as a character. In terms of like Wentworth, like, could live without.
Okay.
Like, his letter wasn't as good as Darcy's. Like, I don't know. He's like, he's fine. I don't care about him. I mean, he's not as like, he's not dreamy, you know? And I want him to be dreamy.
I am so sorry. I can't hear anything. I will
No,
come
it's
back.
okay. We'll let Ace figure out the technical difficulties.
When she comes back, ask her if she thought that Wentworth was dreamy.
Okay.
I want to know if she thought.
I'm gonna note it down. Wentworth dream.
Question mark.
Yeah. Okay. Like,
what about you?
I am hormonal right now, so any bare minimum, they're back. She's back.
All right, I'm back now. I'm sorry. My mom called and she just fucked up my entire setup.
You're okay. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm good now. I had to take off my AirPods, but I'm gonna
put in the live and live show.
Yes, Matthew wants me to ask you: do you think Wentworth is dreamy?
Is what?
Is Wentworth dreamy?
Dreamy?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. He's
listen,
not dreamy.
Listen. Let me die on this hill.
Like, Darcy is dreamy.
Yes.
Bingley's dreamy. Like,
Wentworth is just, he was way overhyped. Okay, listen. This is what I was so excited to talk about because I had so much expectations for this man, and I didn't even get a single like nice paragraph or letter till the actual letter that he sent. Like, I felt like that was like his peak moment, and I really wanted more from him. Like, I don't know, he could have said more, like be more swoony or something. I don't know. Like, I feel like he was kind of rude most of the time. Like, yeah, I don't like her. Like, she rejected me, blah blah blah. Like, we get it. That's in the past, right? I thought that's the point. But no, we did not get enough from this man. Like, he did the bare minimum.
Agreed. Fully agreed.
I just think her being with him is a step to her loving herself because that's a choice that she made on her own. It wasn't about their romance. It's about the choice that she made to be with this man.
And yes. I can agree with that. However, my hormones beg to differ. The bare minimum, oh, bestie, I'm ready for my...
You're down bad. You are down bad.
For Wentworth?
No, listen, it's not for Wentworth. It's his bare minimum actions. I'm like, yeah.
Just for men.
Yeah.
Oh, you Louisa, huh? I bet you connected with Louisa. You throwing yourself out for Wentworth right now.
Listen. It's the hormones. When the hormones are gone, oh, bestie, you'll know.
Oh my goodness.
A few days later, Tiana's gonna like text the group chat like, yeah, I'm over Wentworth.
And you know what? I took that personally. I'm kidding. Ace is not wrong. I will sit here and be like, you know what? Why do men? Especially men written by Jane Austen.
Oh my god.
Okay. Has your perception of Persuasion changed since reading it? Especially now that you haven't read it more than once. But if you read it more than once, which we haven't, has your perception changed about the role of persuasion in this book and the letter is coming out today? The book that is Persuasion by Jane Austen, goodness gracious. No.
I'm really excited for the movie. I love Dakota. I think she's so talented. I think she's going to make a great Anne. I feel like she's very good at like that timid thing, and I feel like that'll be really fun to watch her do.
Which Dakota?
Johnson.
Okay.
You thought Fanning was going to be in?
I need to look up the cast. I never even saw the cast.
Oh, listen, Henry Golding.
But I don't think
Maybe
Henry Golding's
that's
Wentworth.
Henry Golding?
But I don't
Maybe
think he's Wentworth.
You don't think it's Wentworth?
I don't think
Oh,
he
listen.
is, if I remember
He's
correctly.
Mr. Elliot. No.
And he's like in all the promo material. Like clearly they're like, look at this hot guy that's in this movie, but he's not the love interest. So like, excuse me.
That's bad. Take it back.
Wait, I don't like who's playing Wentworth.
I don't think anyone does, Bestie.
Why couldn't
said-
Henry Golding play Wentworth instead?
Listen, we have Dakota. We have Dakota doing her best.
Yeah, I'm good with that, but it's like the rest of this casting. Oh no.
Listen, it's a Netflix movie. We're gonna be disappointed anyway.
That's true.
I
That's
spent too
pretty
much money.
accurate.
Did y'all's Netflix bill go up? Oh, y'all don't pay for Netflix. It's like $19. Yeah. It's like $19 now, and I'm like, you know what?
I don't pay for my Netflix, so
Solid.
it's called being on my parents' bills.
About that. Okay, next question. The characters are constantly moving in Persuasion, so the reader gets to see a variety of scenes. Did you like the constant changes of scenery? Do you have a favorite? Do you think the different locations bring out different aspects of the characters?
I did not like the constant moving around because I couldn't keep track of it because I was trying to read this book in a day. It made it more confusing. I think it was important to the narrative for people to be separated from one another or headed somewhere. Like that was important just plot-wise. But I did not have time to stop and smell the roses anywhere.
Louisa did, obviously.
Yeah, she did more than smell the roses.
Just starting something else.
Yeah, geese poop. Listen, I don't get Louisa. She said, you know what? I'm a bounce. She said, doing, doing. It's not funny. Bodily harm is not.
It's not funny. Proceeds to laugh.
Okay. No, it's like she thought she was doing something cute. Like she thought she was that girl. She was a material girl. And it's her head.
Now she gotta pay for them bills.
No, okay. Because when they were like, let's get the surgeon. I'm like, who got money for the surgeon? Plus, it's a woman. Like you gonna pay a male surgeon to go through the women? Like that's more money. Cause you gotta get a chaperone. It's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. The constant moving. I was keeping track of it because, like, selling the house, going here, going there. Because Anne didn't have a place to be a main character. She had to go other places to be that secondary character. And then when she's finally like in Bath, a distance from her family, she's like, oh wait, I can go choose where I want to be at, not just like be a guest in other people's houses.
For me, I actually liked the moving around. I feel like that helped me keep more in track of where everyone is and who the characters are, because I kind of associated each group with each place. So I liked it, and plus like it added more to because I really like descriptions of places, so I enjoyed it.
I feel that. Especially compared to our last book for January, we were just like, we're in hell and we're just going through hell. And it was very atmospheric? Atmospheric? Is that the word?
Atmospheric.
Yeah. And then you just go to like Austen, you're like, oh wait, this is fluffy, there's drama, there's some commentary on like appearance and status. You're like, oh wait, this is drama, I like it here. And hell, you're just like, we're in hell. There's no movement.
Imagine starting this with January and then going to Lost in February.
During Valentine's Day? No, listen. Compared to, I feel like we needed this book to like rest after hell and like transition out of hell.
Yeah, that's true. Lost Gods was way too intense, I'm not gonna lie.
What was?
Lost Gods, like it was actually super intense.
But you liked it.
I know, but like after reading this, I'm like, wow, that book was intense.
Yeah. Okay. So this question is the letter. We got a little bit into this, but you're just like, no. You're like, eh.
It's not as sexy as Darcy's letter. Sorry. Like, it's a fine
Yeah,
letter, but like
it was
Darcy has
not
the
as
better letter.
it was not as good as I wanted it to be, because I was so I've already heard a little bit about Persuasion. So everyone was like hyping up Wentworth and his letters. So I was like, oh, this is when it's gonna get like super good. Like this is gonna make me root for this man, because I'm struggling rooting for this man. And when the letter comes, I am so underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Do we think Austen has a formula? Because there's a letter in Pride and Prejudice. There's a letter in Austen. If I memory serves correctly, there's correspondence and Sense and Sensibility.
So letters at the time period cost, I think, per page. So to write a letter to somebody was incredibly expensive, took a lot of time. A lot of people couldn't even do it for literacy reasons. Ink was expensive. Like, it is a very intimate and powerful and moving thing to write a letter to someone. I think that's like why she uses letters as a way to allow her characters to like be at their most intimate with one another, because they wouldn't say these things to each other.
Right.
But like taking the time, presentation, money, and everything to send that letter is actually like probably more moving historically than were he to like profess everything to her. Like, I feel like the letter makes sense for Jane Austen to lean on in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do we think Anne and Wentworth's love languages are? I know that's a dumb question, but I just want to like formulate and discuss this. I feel like for Anne, words of affirmation are like a big one for her, simply because
Persuasion.
No, because like you have to then like decipher, and that brain power to decipher, like, is this person trying to persuade me to like, do something for their benefit or for my detriment? And am I going to do this for myself because I want to, because it's like a fuck you to someone else? And then Wentworth, I feel like his is just like quality time.
Yeah.
It's very basic. He's very basic.
Yeah.
My love language, quality time.
Is this why you're down bad for him?
Quality time with Wentworth.
No, because like, don't touch me.
Quality time. That's not touch. This is time.
No, okay, so it's never like, quality time, like cuddling. I'm like, no, get the fuck away from me.
No. That is so boring.
I've been laughing too much. And you know what? It's the best medicine right now, because these medicines are not hitting. This was a relatively short book. One of our shortest for the year, if memory serves correctly.
Yeah. Well, there's only been 2 books.
Yeah. No, compared to Lost Gods and compared to this is like a fraction.
This isn't even a fraction of Lost Gods.
This is like the introduction. Oh goodness.
No, yeah. Anyway. This is the introduction of Lost Gods.
Yeah. This is like the author's note of Lost Gods.
Yep. So any final thoughts? Any like last lingering things you want to get off your chest? Questions? Anything?
Mary did nothing wrong.
Can we get that trending on Twitter? Mary did nothing wrong.
Sorry about it.
It's just funny how much they talk about, or at least in the beginning, like they talked about so much about how Mary's children are just so hard to take care of, and that even Anne struggled. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know why.
Kids can be funny and like, really.
Yeah.
I don't. Did she ever mention her wanting to be like? Yes, being a mother was a big thing.
Oh.
But did she ever mention explicitly like, I love children and I want to have my own one day? I don't remember her ever mentioning that. I think she enjoyed being aunt.
No, she only took care of Mary's children as like a way to get closer to Wentworth.
Yeah.
So
Also,
children were like in the way.
Did you guys talk about, like, because when I couldn't hear, that one shady thing about I think someone was like gossiping about Anne and Elliot. Like, did we ever talk about that shady part?
I can't remember who was gossiping.
Oh, that like people thought that they were going to get together, and that's why
Yeah.
Wentworth was like, I'll never be with her, but let me write this letter.
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes the drama helps. Sometimes the drama spectacle helps.
Yeah, if you have nothing to lose, write a letter, be your boring self, get the girl.
Yeah, Wentworth was so boring. I don't know how. I don't
These
know
are
how
our
you do it,
conclusions.
Tiana.
Mary
I
did
don't know how
nothing
you do it.
wrong. Wentworth is so boring. Go read Persuasion.
In conclusion, Tiana's hormones win this round yet again.
Like the main, like the side characters were so much more interesting. Like I like Anne and the side characters, but Wentworth, like he was like peak YA male brooding romance.
And that's why I ate it up. And that's why I ate it up.
But he didn't even have time. He had so little time in the book. I don't know. He didn't even have time to brood well.
I know,
he didn't do that.
4 from Divergent is like quaking in his boots.
Please.
Oh my goodness. Get me out of here.
Oh my god, I can't. This
So
book
funny.
was. Are you gonna rate it, guys?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I was very
You can't
entertained.
defend him. You're not gonna die on this hill.
I will die on this.
No, you're not. I'm about to
It's not
post
worth it.
on Twitter soon when it happens, when those hormones calm down, and she texts in the group chat. I understand now, guys.
Wentworth is not that hot.
Listen, let a man open his emotions and feelings to me in a letter and in person. Oh, best believe, put a ring on it, bestie.
Someone
In
come
24
get her.
hours, in 24 hours, I will be really good. I enjoyed myself. This is my first completed Jane Austen read. I've been minding away through Pride and Prejudice, and I love the movie, so that's why I'm reading both of these books. And I own all of them on top of that. I will die on this hill for today. Tomorrow, I'll resurrect and take back everything I said, because, didn't happen. If I'd said it didn't happen. Yeah, I'm glad I picked this book for February. I enjoyed myself immensely for the drama and for the bare.
What was your star rating, Tiana?
I give it a 3, purely because I brain power. That's it.
Ace?
Oh, me? I gave it a 3 because I guess the same thing. I'm pretty happy my brain powered through it, but Wentworth didn't make it worth it.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the 3 place myself. I could be persuaded into a 4, if only because of my love of Mary.
Persuasion.
And I also didn't even notice I said that. And because I do think that I liked what Jane Austen was doing, but I didn't necessarily enjoy most of the characters' plot or story. I liked far more what the author was playing with than anything. So I'm sitting at a 3 as well.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna safely say that we beat this dead horse, and that brings us close to our live show for February. Next month, I don't know if Matthew has the book. We're gonna be reading Too Much Lip. Nope, it's fine.
I do not have it. It's over there.
It's okay. Too Much Lip. And we want to address what's going on in the world right now. And we have tried to find links and try to be very cautious of what we put out there. So as information comes in, we will leave links, donations, and information in the comments down below. And we just hope you are, 1, maintaining your peace, and 2, doing self-care. It is dark times right now. So if you're not doing okay, mental health is a big thing. It is okay to take a step back, read a book, and just disassociate for a while, then come back and be yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this live stream, and we will see you in March.
Bye.